Have you ever found yourself in the middle of an argument, raising your voice, your heartbeat racing, and afterward, no matter if you won or lost, you felt completely drained? Let me ask you another question. What if arguments don't just damage relationships, but they quietly damage you, your mind, and even your future? Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share could change the way you handle conflict forever, and maybe even save your love life. Imagine this. A couple sits in a restaurant. What was supposed to be a romantic dinner turns into a heated debate over something small. Maybe one forgot to answer a text, or the other didn't notice the new haircut. Suddenly, voices rise, accusations fly, and what could have been a memory of laughter becomes a memory of resentment. We've all been there. And the truth is, arguments aren't just about winning or losing. They leave scars on your peace of mind, on your health, and on the bond you have with the people you care about. But here's the shocking part. Arguing destroys you far more than you think. Not just in the heat of the moment, but in ways that creep into your habits, your personality, and even the way others see you. So, let's explore why that happens and how you can protect yourself. Number 1. Arguing trains your brain for war, not peace. Let me take you back for a moment. Do you remember the first days of your relationship? That sweet stage when everything felt magical, when just holding hands made your heart race, when a late-night text saying, "I miss you," felt like the world's most valuable treasure? Now pause for a second. Contrast that with the feeling of your first real argument with that same person. Do you remember it? That tightness in your chest, that strange mix of anger and fear, the desperate need to prove your point only to later wonder, why did I even say that? Here's the truth most people don't realize. Every argument you engage in trains your brain. It's like lifting weights, but instead of building muscle, you're building patterns. And the pattern that arguing builds is simple. Fight first, understand later. Let me share a story that might feel familiar. There was a guy named Zen. He grew up in a house where arguments were a daily routine. His parents fought over little things, bills, chores, even what to eat for dinner. To young Zane, that became the definition of normal. Fast forward years later, he's in love, deeply in love, with a woman who once made him believe he'd finally found peace. But whenever disagreements came, up something as small as "Why didn't you call me back?" Zane's brain didn't think conversation. It thought battlefield. His heart raced, his tone sharpened, his words became weapons. And little by little, the love that once felt like a safe home started feeling like a war zone. Now maybe you're listening and thinking, that sounds a lot like me. And you're not alone. Because our brains are like sponges, they absorb what we repeat. The more you argue, the more your mind prepares for arguments. It's like walking into every conversation wearing invisible armor, ready for attack even when no one is attacking. And here's the heartbreaking part. That armor doesn't just block attacks, it blocks love. You stop listening to the person you care about. You stop being curious about what's behind their words. You stop seeing them as your partner, and you start seeing them as your opponent. Think about this. Have you ever been in the middle of an argument with someone you love? And deep down, while the words are flying, a part of you whispers, "I don't want to fight with you. I just want to hold you." But the words keep coming anyway. That's your brain already trained for war. The tragedy is that every argument makes it easier for the next one to happen. And soon what was once a relationship built on love turns into a habit of conflict. But here's the good news. You can retrain your brain. Just like it learned to fight, it can learn to pause, to listen, to understand. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you feel an argument rising, instead of sharpening your words, you'll remember how it felt in those first days of love. And you'll choose peace over war. Number 2, the emotional hangover. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a night where you and your partner argued, and even after the shouting stopped, you couldn't fall asleep? You lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every single word, thinking about what you should have said, what you shouldn't have said, and wondering if things will ever go back to normal. That's what I call an emotional hangover. And unlike the hangover from a drink, there's no glass of water or strong cup of coffee that can wash it away. It lingers. Think about it. The next morning you wake up. The world is moving forward. Cars are honking outside. Sunlight is breaking through the window, but inside you feel heavy. Your stomach is tight. You're quieter than usual. You're distant. And when your partner tries to talk instead of warmth, there's hesitation, because the storm from last night hasn't really passed. That's the danger of arguing. It doesn't end when the words end. The body holds on. Your heart remembers. Your mind replays. And worst of all, your love begins to feel unsafe. Let me tell you a short story. Sarah and Ahmed were deeply in love. They had that kind of bond people envied. But like all couples, they had disagreements. One night, a small issue blew up. Ahmed forgot to call. Sarah felt ignored, and before they knew it, voices were raised. Ahmed went to bed angry. Sarah cried herself to sleep. The next morning, Ahmed thought everything was fine because the fight was over. But Sarah, she felt broken. She carried that emotional hangover all day, and it showed in her silence and her eyes, in the way she avoided his touch. And here's the painful truth. Emotional hangovers pile up. One fight leaves a scar, then another adds to it. And soon, your love isn't light and free anymore, it's weighed down by unhealed wounds. Now maybe you've felt this too. Maybe you've gone to work after a fight. But your mind wasn't in the meeting. It was still trapped in that argument. Or maybe you've gone out with friends but couldn't enjoy yourself because part of you kept hearing those angry words echoing inside. Arguments don't just take away peace in the moment. They steal joy from the hours, the days, sometimes even the weeks that follow. And here's the cruel irony. When we're in the heat of the fight, we think we're getting it out, releasing the tension. But what we're really doing is planting pain that keeps blooming long after the fight ends. So the question is it worth it? Is proving a point worth losing not just the moment of love, but the day after, the week after, maybe even the trust after? The truth is, love can survive disagreements, but it struggles to survive repeated emotional hangovers. If you truly love someone, protect them from that weight. Protect yourself from it too. Because peace isn't just what you feel in the moment, it's what lingers afterward. Number 3, arguments are addictive. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, even after one argument ends, another one follows not long after? Almost like you and your partner are unconsciously looking for another reason to fight? It's strange, isn't it? But here's the truth. Arguments can become addictive. It doesn't sound right at first. Who would want to keep fighting with the person they love? But the answer lies in how our bodies work. Every time you argue, your body releases adrenaline. Your heart starts beating faster, your voice gets sharper, your mind locks into attack mode. And in a twisted way, that rush of energy feels powerful, almost like a drug. Let me tell you a story you might recognize. There was a couple, Ali and Hina. In the beginning, their love was soft, tender, almost magical. But over time, little disagreements turned into loud arguments. And here's the surprising part. They started fighting over the smallest things. What to eat, where to go, who texted back late. At first, they told themselves it was normal. But soon it became a pattern. Why? Because their brains had started linking love with conflict. That adrenaline rush made them feel alive. They mistook the intensity of fighting for the intensity of passion. And before long, arguments became their habit, their routine, almost like a secret addiction they couldn't see. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've caught yourself picking a fight without even realizing why. You wanted attention. You wanted to feel close again. But instead of asking for love, you chose conflict. And for a brief moment, it worked. The fight gave you that rush. But afterward, the silence, the distance, the regret, this is the dangerous cycle of addictive arguing. It tricks you into thinking, at least we're connecting, even if it's through fighting. But that's not real connection. That's poison disguised as passion. Think back to the best memory you have with someone you loved deeply. Maybe it was walking hand in hand, laughing at something silly, or sharing a quiet moment where no words were needed. Compare that to the memory of your last big argument. Which memory do you want to repeat for the rest of your life? That's the choice you face every time you let arguments control you. Here's the real problem. The more addicted you become to arguing, the harder it is to experience love in its pure form. You start chasing conflict instead of calm. You start thinking drama is proof of love, when in reality, it's the beginning of love's destruction. But there's a way out. Just like any addiction, it starts with awareness. Ask yourself, am I arguing to be understood, or am I arguing because I've grown addicted to the rush? When you recognize that pattern, you can break it. You can choose to replace arguments with conversations, replace adrenaline with understanding, and replace toxic cycles with healing ones. Because love doesn't need war to stay alive. Love was always meant to be the peace after the storm, not the storm itself. Number 4, arguing pushes people away. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone close to you suddenly go silent in a relationship? Not because they didn't care anymore, but because they got tired of fighting? That silence, it doesn't come overnight. It's built argument by argument until one day, the person you love emotionally checks out, even if they're still sitting right beside you. That's the hidden danger of arguing. It doesn't just create noise in the moment. It creates distance that slowly pushes people away. Let me tell you a story that might sound painfully familiar. Ali was a man who always believed he was right. Every time his partner disagreed with him, he felt the need to correct her. He thought he was helping, guiding, maybe even protecting the relationship. But in reality, every argument chipped away at her willingness to share her heart. At first, she fought back, her voice strong, her emotions raw. But after months of constant arguments, something inside her shifted. She didn't fight anymore. She didn't argue back. She simply went quiet. And to Ali, silence felt like victory. He thought, finally, she's listening to me. But the truth was far darker. She wasn't listening. She was leaving emotionally. And that's how arguments push people away. Not always in loud exits or dramatic breakups, but in quiet withdrawals. The laughter fades. The late night talks stop. The touches become fewer, colder, shorter. Until one day, you realize you're lying next to someone who feels a million miles away. Maybe you've felt this too. Maybe you've noticed how after a fight, your partner doesn't open up as much anymore. Maybe you've noticed the way they hesitate before sharing their thoughts, as if they're bracing for another argument. Or maybe you've been the one who pulled away, choosing silence over conflict because you're just too tired to fight again. Here's the heartbreaking truth. Arguments don't just push people away from the conversation, they push them away from you. And once distance takes root in a relationship, it grows like a wall built not from bricks, but from unspoken pain, unshed tears, and unresolved fights. And when that wall grows too high, love suffocates behind it. Now I want you to remember a sweet moment with someone you loved deeply. Maybe it was a night where you both laughed until your stomachs hurt, or a morning where you held each other without saying a word. Those moments felt effortless, right? Safe, beautiful, that's what love was meant to be. But every time you choose to argue instead of understand, you move one step further away from that memory. You push away the person who once made you feel at home. So ask yourself this, do you want to be right or do you want to be loved? Because sometimes choosing love means letting go of the need to argue. Number 5, the illusion of winning. Let me ask you something. Have you ever won an argument with your partner, only to feel strangely empty afterward? You proved your point, you got the last word, maybe you even made them go quiet. But instead of joy, what you felt was silence. Cold, heavy silence. That's the dangerous illusion of winning an argument. You think you've gained something, but what you've really lost is far greater. Let me share a story. Sana was known among her friends as the clever one, the sharp one, the woman who always had a comeback. In her relationship, she carried that same attitude. Every disagreement turned into a match she had to win. If her boyfriend said something wrong, she corrected him. If he made a mistake, she pointed it out. And when arguments flared, she fought until her words silenced him. Maybe you felt this too. Maybe you've noticed how after a fight, your partner doesn't open up as much anymore. Maybe you've noticed the way they hesitate before sharing their thoughts, as if they're bracing for another argument. Or maybe you've been the one who pulled away, choosing silence over conflict because you're just too tired to fight again. Here's the heartbreaking truth. Arguments don't just push people away from the conversation, they push them away from you. And once distance takes root in a relationship, it grows like a wall built not from bricks, but from unspoken pain, unshed tears, and unresolved fights. And when that wall grows too high, love suffocates behind it. Now I want you to remember a sweet moment with someone you loved deeply. Maybe it was a night where you both laughed until your stomachs hurt, or a morning where you held each other without saying a word. Those moments felt effortless, right? Safe, beautiful, that's what love was meant to be. But every time you choose to argue instead of understand, you move one step further away from that memory. You push away the person who once made you feel at home. So ask yourself this, do you want to be right or do you want to be loved? Because sometimes choosing love means letting go of the need to argue. Number 5, the illusion of winning. Let me ask you something. Have you ever won an argument with your partner, only to feel strangely empty afterward. You proved your point, you got the last word, maybe you even made them go quiet. But instead of joy, what you felt was silence. Cold, heavy silence. That's the dangerous illusion of winning an argument. You think you've gained something, but what you've really lost is far greater. Let me share a story. Sana was known among her friends as the clever one, the sharp one, the woman who always had a comeback. In her relationship, she carried that same attitude. Every disagreement turned into a match she had to win. If her boyfriend said something wrong, she corrected him. If he made a mistake, she pointed it out. And when arguments flared, she fought until her words silenced him. For a while, she felt powerful, victorious, but one day, in the middle of yet another fight, her boyfriend looked at her with tired eyes and said softly, "Sana, you win every argument, but you're losing me in the process." That's when it hit her. Winning had cost her the one thing she never wanted to lose, his heart. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've raised your voice, laid out all the reasons you were right, and watched your partner go quiet. On the surface, it felt like victory, but later when you looked into their eyes, you saw the distance. You felt the coldness, and deep down you knew you hadn't really won anything. Here's the truth. Arguments are not about truth, they're about ego. Winning an argument doesn't mean your relationship is stronger. It means your ego is satisfied while your connection is weaker. Think about it. Imagine the person you love most in this world, your partner, your spouse, maybe even someone you once loved but lost. Now picture them sitting in front of you, their face sad, their heart heavy, because instead of being understood, they felt defeated. Would you really call that winning? Love is not a battlefield. It's not about victories and defeats. Love is a home, and every time you argue to win, you're breaking another piece of that home brick by brick, until one day you look around and realize you're standing alone inside the ruins. So here's the real question. Would you rather be right, or would you rather be loved? Because when you choose to argue just to win, you don't gain anything. You don't gain respect, you don't gain trust, and you certainly don't gain closeness. You only gain distance. The illusion of winning blinds you. But the reality of losing someone who once gave you their heart, that's a pain no victory can ever replace. Number 6, arguing destroys your self-control. Think back to the last time you argued with someone you loved. Do you remember how your heart started racing? How your voice got louder than you intended? How you said things that later on you wished you could take back? That's what arguing does. It doesn't just test your patience, it destroys your self-control. Let me tell you a story. Bilal was deeply in love with Mariam. He was gentle, kind, and respectful most of the time. But whenever arguments sparked, something changed inside him. His face flushed red, his voice cracked with anger, and before he knew it, he was saying words he didn't mean, words that cut deep. "I don't even know why I'm with you." That sentence slipped out once during a heated fight. He didn't mean it, not at all. But the damage was done. The look on Mariam's face haunted him for weeks. It was the look of someone who just heard their heart shatter. And here's the thing. You might forget the words spoken in anger, but the person who hurt them never does. That's the tragedy of arguing. It hijacks your brain. Your body pumps adrenaline, your thoughts race, your emotions explode. And in that storm, your self-control, the very thing that keeps love safe, vanishes. Maybe you've experienced this too. Maybe you've promised yourself, next time I'll stay calm. I won't raise my voice. I won't say things I'll regret. But then the moment comes, and it's like you're a passenger in your own body, watching yourself lose control, wishing you could stop but not knowing how. And after it's all over, the regret comes rushing in. You sit there thinking, why did I say that? Why couldn't I just stay calm? But the damage has already been done. Words can't be unsaid. Now let's pause here and remember something. Think back to the sweetest memory of your love life. Maybe it was when they looked into your eyes and told you they loved you for the first time. Or maybe it was something small, like the way they laughed at your silly joke, or the way they reached for your hand without saying a word. In those moments, you were in full control, not of them, but of yourself. Your patience, your tenderness, your calmness, that's what made those moments beautiful. But arguing strips that away. It drags out a version of you that doesn't reflect love, doesn't reflect care, and doesn't reflect the person you want to be. That's why unchecked arguments are so destructive. They don't just hurt your partner, they make you feel like a stranger to yourself. Love demands strength, but not the strength to dominate. It demands the strength to remain calm when your heart is on fire. The strength to choose kindness when anger tempts you. The strength to control yourself, because only then can love survive. So ask yourself this: in the heat of an argument, are you controlling the situation, or is the situation controlling you? Number 7. Arguing turns love into a battlefield instead of a safe place. Think about why you fell in love in the first place. It wasn't because you wanted another enemy in your life. You already have stress from work, from responsibilities, from the outside world. Love was supposed to be your safe place. Your partner was supposed to be the one person you could run to, the one who makes you feel like home. But the moment constant arguing enters, that safe place starts to crumble. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you were excited to see your partner after a long day, but the moment you walked through the door, one wrong word, one small misunderstanding, and suddenly the evening turned into another exhausting fight? That's when love no longer feels like comfort. It feels like walking into a battlefield, and deep down you don't even know how you got there. Here's the truth most people don't realize: when love feels like war, nobody wins. You might win the argument, but you lose the peace. You might get the last word, but you lose the warmth. Remember those early days with your partner, the laughs, the late night talks, the way even silence between you two felt comfortable. That wasn't about winning or proving anything. It was about connection. But constant arguing replaces connection with tension. And the worst part? You start to expect the fight before it even begins. You begin to think, if I say this, they'll get angry. If they say that, I'll have to defend myself. That's no longer love, it's survival. Let me give you an image. Imagine your relationship as a garden. In the beginning, it's full of color, life, and beauty. Every smile is like sunlight, every kind word like water, and every memory like blooming flowers. But when you argue constantly, it's like throwing salt on the soil. Slowly, nothing grows. The flowers wither, the colors fade, and one day, you look at the garden and wonder where all the beauty went. And here's where it gets really painful. You start to associate your partner with stress instead of comfort. The person who was once your safe space becomes the one you fear will trigger another argument. That's how love dies, not in one big explosion, but in small daily battles that eat away at what you once had. So here's my question to you. Do you want your love to feel like home, or like a war zone? Because at the end of the day, you don't need to be right all the time. You need to be happy. Winning the battle means nothing if it costs you the person you love. Number 8. Arguing makes you forget the real problem and attack each other instead. Let me ask you something. How many times have you found yourself in the middle of an argument and suddenly realized that you're no longer fighting about the actual issue? Maybe it started with something small, like who didn't do the dishes or who forgot to call. But then within minutes it turned into you never listened to me, or you don't care about me. The original problem disappears and suddenly you're fighting each other instead of fighting the issue. This is one of the biggest traps of arguing in relationships. It shifts the focus from the problem to the person. And once that happens, the argument stops being about resolving anything. It becomes about hurting, defending, and proving. Think back to a moment in your own love life. Maybe you once argued about something small, and afterward, you thought to yourself, why did we even fight about that? It wasn't even that important. But in the heat of the moment, you said things you didn't mean, and your partner did too. That's the danger, because words leave scars that even apologies can't fully erase. Here's a painful truth. Every time an argument shifts from the problem to the person, it plants a seed of resentment. Maybe you forgive, maybe you move on, but deep inside a part of you remembers. And the more it happens, the heavier your heart becomes. Let me put it this way. Imagine your love as a mirror. Every time you attack each other instead of the problem, it's like cracking that mirror. One argument might only leave a tiny scratch, but over time those scratches turn into cracks, and eventually the mirror shatters. And when it does, it's almost impossible to put it back the way it was. Think about the early days of your relationship again, the way you and your partner were a team. If something went wrong, it was you two against the problem. But when arguing takes over, it flips. Now it's you against them. And the moment you start seeing your partner as the enemy, the relationship begins to collapse from the inside. And I want you to really reflect on this, how many beautiful moments have been ruined because the focus shifted from, let's solve this together, to I need to win against you. How many nights of love turned into nights of silence because both of you forgot the issue and ended up attacking each other instead? At the end of the day, arguments destroy not because problems can't be solved, but because people stop solving the problem and start fighting the person. And once that happens, the love that was supposed to heal you becomes the very thing that hurts you the most. So I'll ask you again, are you fighting the problem? Or are you fighting the person you love? Because the answer to that question could decide whether your relationship survives or slowly falls apart. Number 9, arguing slowly kills love without you even realizing it. Let me ask you something straight from the heart. When you think about the person you love, do you picture joy, laughter, and warmth? Or has it slowly become stress, frustration, and distance? Because here's the hard truth. Arguing doesn't just hurt your relationship in the moment. It silently kills the love over time. The scary part is it doesn't happen all at once. Love doesn't usually die in one big dramatic moment. It dies in pieces, through every harsh word, every cold silence, every night spent back to back instead of in each other's arms. Think about it. When you first fell in love, you couldn't wait to hear their voice, to share your day, to laugh at little things. But constant arguing changes that. Suddenly you hesitate before calling. You think twice before sharing something. You even hold back parts of yourself, afraid it might spark another fight. And when that happens, the connection that once felt effortless begins to feel heavy. I want you to pause and really remember, do you recall those first moments when you and your partner would talk about dreams, about the future, about all the things you'd do together? That spark, that excitement, that magic, it felt unshakable, right? But arguments have a way of dimming that light. Slowly, what used to be love-filled conversations turn into negotiations, debates, or worse, silence. And silence, my friend, is often more dangerous than the loudest argument. Because silence means one of you has given up. And when love reaches that stage, it's no longer alive, it's just surviving. Here's the sad part. Most people don't realize this is happening until it's too late. They keep arguing, thinking it's just normal couple stuff. But normal shouldn't mean painful. Normal shouldn't mean tearing each other down. And by the time they wake up and realize what's been lost, the love is already too fragile to be saved. It's like a candle. In the beginning, it burns bright, lighting up everything around it. But every argument is like blowing on that flame. A little puff doesn't put it out. But if you keep blowing little by little, the flame grows weaker. And one day, it just goes out. And when it does, you can't bring it back. So here's my question to you. Are you protecting that flame? Or are you slowly blowing it out without realizing it? Because love isn't destroyed by distance or money, or even mistakes nearly as often as it's destroyed by unkind words, ego, and unnecessary fights. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, do I want to be right? Or do I want to be in love? Because arguing may give you a victory in the moment, but in the long run, it can cost you the very person who once meant everything to you. So after walking through all of this together, let's be honest, arguing destroys far more than we ever imagine. It eats away at trust, turns home into a battlefield, makes you forget the real problem, and worst of all, it slowly kills love without you even realizing it. But here's the good news. Love doesn't have to end this way. The moment you become aware, the moment you choose peace over ego, the moment you decide that protecting the love is more important than winning the fight, that's when everything changes. Think about your own story. Think about the person you love, the memories you've built, the laughter, the late night talks, the little moments that only you two share. Ask yourself, do you really want to throw all of that away just to prove a point? Or do you want to protect it, nurture it, and keep that flame alive? At the end of the day, love isn't about being right. Love is about being real, being kind, and choosing each other again and again, even when it's hard. Because the truth is, arguments don't define your relationship, but how you handle them will. So the next time you feel an argument rising, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this worth losing the person I love? Because in most cases, the answer will be no. And with that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.